The US government is spying on you. You know, probably. For the past 23 years, the United States government has been collecting vast amounts of internet data and various forms of electronic communication from American citizens. And that's just what we know about. Join us as we go through the history of FISA. We'll talk about the CIA drugging college kids, secret courts, presidents breaking the law, and the NSA spying on presidential candidates. And then we'll talk about what we should do about it. Today, we are going through the history, problems, and possible solutions to FISA. Let's go. My name is Mac Latimer, and this is Imagine Better. The story begins in 1975, the so-called Year of Intelligence, the annoying little sister to the Summer of Love. In previous years, the media kept uncovering government misconduct, especially when it came to intelligence agencies. So, on January 27, 1975, the Senate created the Church Commission to investigate overreaches of the intelligence community. The House created the Pikes Commission, and the President created the Rockefeller Commission, but for time's sake, we're going to focus on the Church Commission. The Church Commission's work was unparalleled. It produced the most comprehensive report on the intelligence community in Congress's history, and possibly the most extensive conducted to this day. Even the declassified portion alone numbered more than 50,000 pages, a testament to the committee's thoroughness. The committee unveiled programs such as MKUltra, a program where the CIA tested drugged interrogation and brainwashing on U.S. citizens, including unwitting college kids; COINTELPRO, where the government infiltrated various political organizations such as the Communist Party, the KKK, and even Martin Luther King's movement; and the Family Jewels, where the CIA assassinated foreign political leaders. However, the primary revelations related to our story are the revelations of Project Minaret and Shamrock. The National Security Agency, an agency previously unknown to the public, was collecting domestic electronic communications under Project Minaret and was collecting communications between Americans and foreigners under Project Shamrock. At their peak, they were collecting millions of communications a year. I know, by today's standard, that doesn't sound like much. But believe it or not, in the 1970s, they didn't even have smartphones. The public was understandably up in arms. People demanded that Congress stop the executive branch from overstepping their authority and violating people's constitutional rights. So, in October 1978, President Carter signed the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act into law. For those of you following at home, that's where we get FISA courts. If you believe the authors, FISA was actually supposed to rein in the overreaches of the executive branch. It was supposed to establish a system where the NSA, FBI, or any other agency had to get permission or a warrant before collecting information on Americans or on American soil, even if the target of that surveillance was a foreign power. The issue with this original structure was twofold. The first is that FISA judges were not appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. They were appointed by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and therefore not true Article III courts. The second, these requests, surveillance, and court proceedings were secret, even from Congress, removing all accountability. Thankfully, the executive branch created something called the FISA wall. They made it so where law enforcement could not access the incidental collection on American citizens. We don't know a lot about the abuses of the FISA court situation from its creation to 2001. But what we do know is that from its creation until 2003, there was not a single warrant that was not granted. That is not a check on a system. That's a rubber stamp. But then, September 11th and the USA Patriot Act changed everything. The Patriot Act dismantled the separation between foreign intelligence and law enforcement. That's the FISA wall we talked about earlier. So at this point, if the NSA collected information of a crime from its incidental collection on American citizens, it could now forward that surveillance onto law enforcement agencies such as the FBI. The Patriot Act also created bulk surveillance under Section 215. under which the NSA could collect all business records and communication metadata. Think location data, call times and length, and caller identities. The only thing the NSA had to prove was the data was relevant to foreign intelligence. That's not a very high standard. Fortunately, it also added a sunset amendment to parts of FISA that required reauthorization in 4 years. After several years under this new system, the New York Times and later Bloomberg unveiled stories that showed the Bush administration had been collecting communications between Americans and foreigners without even a FISA warrant. That's when the Bush administration introduced the Protect America Act of 2007. This act would suspend the warrant requirement for the surveillance the Bush administration had been conducting for 180 days. This time was supposed to give the president and Congress time to negotiate amendments to FISA. Their negotiations produced the last significant changes to FISA under the FISA Amendments Act of 2008. For this law, we're going to focus on the infamous Section 702. This section gave the Attorney General or the Director of National Intelligence the ability to authorize surveillance. All they had to do was get an annual general approval from the FISA courts. That brings us to PRISM. In 2013, Edward Snowden revealed to the world how the NSA and US government were using Section 702. This is how it works. An NSA analyst will create a surveillance target and send it to the FBI. The target can be as large a group of people or criteria as desired. Then, the FBI will go to the relevant technology company with an order for that information and any possible assistance needed. For instance, Microsoft puts data aside to go to the FBI before they encrypt it. Then, the FBI gives that data to the NSA and sometimes the CIA, while keeping it for itself occasionally. At a minimum, PRISM is collecting information from Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, YouTube, AOL, and Apple. And that's just the companies we know about. In 2016, the NSA even spied on the Trump campaign with the excuse that one of the people working for the Trump campaign, Carter Page, was a foreign agent. Again, this was legal under the FISA Amendments Act. Even after these revelations, Congress reauthorized the FISA Amendments Act in 2018 for 6 more years. Then, a couple weeks ago, President Biden signed another reauthorization for 2 more years into law. So that's the history of FISA courts. Let's get into the problems. When conservatives talk about the economy, we have it easy. Free markets are both morally good and they are effective. We can argue from both sides and still win. That is not the case with civil liberties. If we had a mass surveillance state where everyone was forced to wear a body cam that was immediately uploaded to law enforcement, then we would catch nearly every crime. And then, if we took away trials and immediately gave people the death penalty for those crimes, you would see crime stop. The reason we don't do this is because it's morally wrong and we have a constitution that prevents the government from doing so. The Constitution doesn't address the privacy rights of foreign citizens. The Constitution primarily delegates foreign power rights to the executive branch, with the only check being Congress's power of the purse. FISA aims to address what happens when that Wild West of foreign policy meets the constitutionally protected rights of domestic policy. Right now, the NSA and FBI are collecting American citizens' data without warrants and handing that data to law enforcement. The Fourth Amendment says, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." In other words, for the government to search someone's self, house, papers, or effects, they must have a warrant supported by sworn probable cause and specifying what the government is searching and what it is seizing. Incidental collection through Section 702 programs such as PRISM and further upstream surveillance violates the Fourth Amendment. So we've gotten to my favorite part. How do we solve this? The first step is easy. We need to roll FISA back to the original 1978 law. No bulk surveillance, and the NSA must get a warrant. Second, we need to codify the FISA wall into law. No more interaction between foreign intelligence surveillance and law enforcement. Thirdly, we need to turn the FISA court into a true Article 3 court. The president needs to appoint these judges, and the Senate needs to approve them. And finally, Congress needs to be aware of every request and every surveillance so they can provide oversight for the system and tweak the law as needed. So, what do you think? Do I have it right? Do I have it wrong? Let me know in the comments. If I made any mistakes, let me know that too. As always, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you get notifications about when our next video comes out. And then go follow us on your social media of choice. Finally, go to imaginebettermedia.com and sign up for a subscription. This will give you access to our community groups and ad-free content. And more importantly, this is what is going to allow us to provide you with more content. Thank you very much. Go check out more videos here, and remember, always, imagine better.